Okay, and we're live. Thanks everyone for coming to another Node.js Community Committee meeting. This is for the week of September 19th as of today. But yes, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let's get started with initiative updates. So anyone from initiatives have an update they'd like to be sharing?
Should we? Yeah, I have one from website redesign. So the last 2 weeks, each Saturday, we've been doing, oh my God, there's puppies. Saw his video, it's adorable. Yeah, so for the last 2 weeks, each Saturday, we've had a hackathon where me, Oscar, John, and folks all hung out and hacked away on getting a new website laid out now that Oscar has the mocks all squared away. So we are working in a staging branch on the node.js.dev repo, and we're making some really good progress. Oscar has the homepage blocked out. We're going to need content review there at some point soon. We have the learn page reformatted to the new style. We have the API docs page rendering out, missing some deep linking features and all that, but it is coming along really, really nicely. And John got a whole bunch of infrastructure stuff working for ESLint and Prettier, and he's moving on to the download stage for layout. Once we block all those out, all the major sections will be packed in there. There's still a long way to go before we can even consider, the switch over. We have to figure out I to N. We have to figure out, make sure that we have link parity between the two sites. Figure out, and God knows how we're going to do redirects, but this is a big step forward. I'm excited to see it happen. There will not be a hackathon this Saturday, but we'll have a regular Node.js or website redesign meeting next Thursday. We're back on that regular cadence.
Awesome. Is that staging branch in like a online state, or is it staging just in Git?
So could be both. It's just in Git right now. A couple of the PRs had a preview URL generated for them, but we don't have an open PR from staging into master, so we don't have a preview URL yet.
Gotcha.
For it online. I can get that spun up quickly now that it's in a presentable state, at least. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry, I have one quick question. So deployment, does it work from GitHub pages, or does it require a backend?
It requires a backend. So the existing site also does too. There's the whole deployment process for the existing static site that gets generated. This thing is a Gatsby site, so it's it's all static content at the very least. We're actually, the way we're doing API docs right now, we're actually hitting up some of the generated assets from the current docs pages. So nothing new had to, for the docs, for API docs generation, we're not, there's no process changes. Luckily, they generated JSON file that we can hit up like it's an API, pretend like it's an API, which is convenient. But yes, it'll require a backend, or backend infrastructure to deploy, which that is going to be the next step, because we still have to figure out internationalization and make sure, like I said, we have redirects in place or link parity or some plan for that, so we don't break current links to the site if and when it gets switched over.
One question I have on that is, I know there was a discussion at some point about changing how we do docs. Is that still in play, or are you just trying to go minimal breakage?
So leave it or not. There's I may have some API docs like content modifications, because there's some places where it doesn't. So this way, I was pleasantly surprised at how it's actually broken up. It's more granularly broken up and labeled than I thought it was. It being all just in Markdown. So the way it's drafted may seem a little monolithic, but somewhere in the build where it generates the API, like JSON content, it actually does a pretty good job of separating out properties from methods from constructor interfaces and so you actually have access to all that metadata, which I did not think we actually did until I actually dug into it. So
Gotcha.
It's in a better place than I thought it was, which is real nifty. So there's some content that could probably use some better labeling that's just kind of mislabeled, or it would be nice to have a distinction between a module and there's right now modules and miscellaneous is kind of this catch-all bucket for chunks of the documentation, and it probably should get broken up into a couple different sub distinctions, just so it makes more sense. It's been used as catch-all for stuff that doesn't quite match properties or methods or yada yada. But I think we'll be in a good place by the end of this. Regardless, it shouldn't actually require major changes, or let's put it, major changes will not be required for it to work well.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
It might be a nice to have.
I was just curious because I know that was a discussion that was on the table, and at the Electrum Collaborator Summit, they brought up their docs parser, which basically parses Markdown, a very strict way to write Markdown, and then it builds an AST out of that Markdown, and then actually enables them to have TypeScript definitions generated from their Markdown, which then they can use to validate API changes. And if those APIs break, that's actually a way that they can surface it if the docs TypeScript's definitions are incorrect compared to what they've shipped. So it's a interesting thing that I'd like to explore as a docs thing. But if the current state is works, I may set that on the back burner a little bit more than I originally intended to.
I'd still love to explore it. It seems like I haven't dug deep into our API docs parser yet, but it seems to do something similar. We're just not using that metadata for anything as detailed, it seems like.
Gotcha.
So we have that information. I don't know how strictly enforced it is, but it's there.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, but that is, we should definitely still have the conversation of how can we incrementally make updates there, because there is room for improvement. It's just not going to be a blocker, which is nice.
Okay. Cool. Any other initiative updates?
Hi.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about Node.js collection. There's a PR waiting for a Node.js community committee to review. It's been 2-3 weeks. So I just I can ask everyone again to just as a reminder to review that PR. We can move on with the process. After that's merged, HL will also work on having the Trello board in the documentation so that we can start the process. Maybe HL, you can also comment. Sorry.
Can you post the link for that, the one you want to review one, so I can add it to the minutes?
Okay.
Cool. Anything else on that specific discussion topic? Cool. Joe, I think you begun to start talking.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's not really much of an update, but I think I mentioned this last time that in terms of user feedback, the actual survey work, we are going to move to the OpenJS Foundation so that it can be taken advantage of by more projects. That's a work in progress on my end. I should have a new repo open up there soon, and we can close that aspect out. I'm not sure about other aspects of user feedback, so if anybody wants to chime in, feel free, and then I can just do a quick CPC update. No one else? Okay, great. Not too much of an update from the CPC. We meet weekly. We're making lots of progress, but it's a lot of process progress. So we're one of the big areas that we're working on is project progression, bringing in new projects, We have a few projects that are in the pipeline that have applied. They're still in the private phase of this while we work through some things. But it's been helping us figure out like what that means to take on new projects and how we go about it and what the process should be and such. So we're making really good progress there. Working on like code of conduct work and reporting issues and making sure we have that all squared away, as that's a very important issue. And the travel fund process, moving that to the OpenJSF is still in progress, but I think we're nearing the end stages of that as well. I can't think if there's anything else more, but Michael, if you have anything else that you remember or any other folks that have been in the meetings regularly, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, the other thing I might mention is that there's an update to the code of conduct handling side of things. So we had a proposal which had the external reporting addresses and what you did externally. We're updating it to include the process for how reports will be handled once they're submitted. So again, if anybody in this group has an interest, that's sort of up and being discussed. I think I'm trying to remember if that's the one we agreed. We were pretty close to, saying, okay, it can land as stage 1, and then, we'll make a PR to move it to stage 2. Yeah. So it is moving forward. Now is the time to, if you have strong views or any views, I guess, to chime in on there.
Yeah, and Manil's been doing some of the work there. So thank you for that, Manil. And then the other thing I would just add too is that we have a couple of working groups that are starting up. So if you have any interest in infrastructure, which there's a lot of infrastructure needs with over 30 projects in the foundation. So if you have any interest there, let me know. And also standards, figuring out how to approach standards bodies from the foundation and community perspective and be helpful there as well. So those are two things that are working groups or teams that are getting rolling. So if you have interest in either of those, let me know. Thank you.
I guess following on to the CPC update, since it's in the same section on the board front, the next board meeting is 1 week from tomorrow. I just checked the board on the admin board. There's nothing there that's been raised in terms of things to bring up with the board, but if there's anything that you do have in mind that you haven't raised yet, just let me know through some mechanism, because that's the next opportunity. Well, other than through email and stuff like that.
Great. Kenny, you're muted if you're talking.
I was indeed. Thank you. Thank you. I had no clue. Sala, I hope I pronounced that right. Would you be willing to give a quick update on issue 507? Just since it's kind of in between an initiative and an issue right now. And it seems like there's like a relatively late status update, but not a massive one.
Yeah, it's actually a very small update. I created a Slack channel. And basically what I'm looking for is, I guess, momentum, which I don't know where to start, like how to jumpstart making next steps and so on. But I think it's for me, it would be good to have those who are interested maybe have an out-of-band meeting. We preferably where the time would allow to just go more into detail. And if at all possible, it would just be recorded, not live streamed, so we can pause the recording at some times where there might be some, I guess, off-topic discussions that could be helpful. So I think this is where things stand. It's my belief that there are too many directions the initiative can actually try to tackle. It's very hard to know which one would be the first most effective one to focus on. And it's also important to align that with things people are interested to work on, not just things that look like they're going to be very, very promising if they're completed. I guess that's it.
Awesome, cool. Anyone else have questions, comments, thoughts on that? Okay, in that case, we can, please definitely take a look and join that Slack channel in the Node.js community Slack. I don't recall the URL to join if you're not already a member. Node.js something.
Slackers.
Yep, Node Slackers.
I can actually post more details on the issue itself.
Cool, awesome.
All right.
Cool. With that, I think we can move on. Let me get back to the agenda issue. Cool. So I think that covers most initiative updates. Now, there are some like ComCom process things that I would like to have a quick discussion about, of if it's worth creating an issue or if it's worth having just discussion here. Would y'all prefer that to be front loaded before agenda items or postponed to after agenda items? Or no opinion?
I don't feel strongly. I'm looking at the agenda items. I'm not sure there's anything that like needs immediate attention. So
okay. In that case, I think we should be able to get through these relatively quickly. Also, one of these issues is closed now. Yeah, I think we can get through these relatively quick. So let's prioritize the agenda and then we can talk about that after. Okay, so first agenda item is Node.js admin 408, which is recertifying moderation team members. So this is effectively, every year we have to recertify the moderation team members. I believe 5 or 6 people step down. 5, Dan Shaw, Hacky Go Lucky, Tracy Hines, George Adams, Gibson, and then the 4th I don't want to butcher their name. So those 5 people step down, which leaves 5 people. So that's Benjamin, myself, Jordan Hubbard, Forrest Norville, and Ryan Lewis. So the process here is when new people are added to the moderation team, there has to be no -1s from anyone on ComCom nor TSC, but to recertify, there has to be general consensus between, in each group that these people are okay and have done an okay job, an acceptable job, and can continue. So I am going to abstain from voting in this because I'm one of the people. However, I think we should probably run a quick vote since this is technically a voting issue. So quick, I'm going to go down the list of people and ask for objections. If there are no objections, you're more than welcome to, that person will be recertified. If you do not feel comfortable voicing an objection, you can, I would suggest either commenting in the public chat in Zoom, or you can in Zoom direct message me through like the chat options and then send it to Tierney. And I will make a note that there was an objection while, retaining your privacy around that. But also ensuring that we have a log of who objected if that is questioned. So first one is Benjamin. Are there any objections to recertifying Benjamin for the moderation team? Actually, let me do this since I'm a member of this and I'm the one running it. I'm gonna try to ask someone else to run it. Michael, would you be willing to run through each person and
Sure.
do that? Cool. So instead of messaging me, message Michael.
Yep, sure. And like there is the issue, like if you can message me directly if you want it to be anonymous. Otherwise, you can vote in the issue itself. So are there any objections to recertify at Benjamin? We'll take that as a no and assume that everybody here is voting for recertification. For BNB. Okay, at LJ Harb.
I'm sorry, just to understand, if we stay mute, it means that we are okay, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yep.
And this is
Okay,
also
so
for,
it's okay. So that's okay. I
this
thought
is
I was
also
going to say plus one. It's okay.
this is also a voting thing for ComCom members specifically.
Yep. Okay. At All Theme 23. And at Ryan Mukarakami. Okay, so I think we can say there were no objections to recertifying from the the voting members here. So we'll mark that as +1 votes in the issue itself. For the other people, it's at D Shaw, at Hockey Go Lucky, at G Adams, at GiveFam, and the Fourth Eye. You know, the recommendation was not to recertify. You know, just ask in general, does anybody have any objections to that?
No objection. I would like to thank them for the time and effort that they put into doing it.
I agree.
Yep, many thanks. Okay, so what I'll do is what I did for the TSC is I'll post in the people, the voting members who are here as +1s and ask, like do an app mention to ask the members of the ComCom who weren't here to, you know, either chime in or contact myself. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. And thank you, Michael.
Cool. With that, we can, I believe, move on to the next item. Yeah. Let's see, I'm trying to get that back. Okay, cool. So next agenda item is community chairperson self-nominations, which has closed at this point. I have become the chairperson. Thank you, Adam, for the year that you've served. Greatly appreciated.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Welcome back, Tierney. Yeah, it couldn't have gone into better hands next. For sure. So it was wonderful serving for the last year. Learned a lot. I feel like we did a lot. Amazing experience. But excited to see where you're going to take it to, Tierney.
Thanks. Awesome. Okay, so I have closed that issue and unlabeled it just for clarity in the future, because I found that turns out those closed but still labeled issues are sometimes pesky. We already covered toward less conflicts from biases and assumptions, biases/assumptions in communication style/conventions. For now, since we retained that in the initiative update, like the kind of in between initiative and issue, it's a very cute cat, Adam. I'm going to remove the CC agenda label, just noting that we are, we've tentatively moved forward on this, and I think it's okay to have that in the initiative section rather than in a permanent CC agenda issue tag. Okay, so next item on the agenda is charter update to reflect new OpenJS Foundation. So this is a PR I submitted for last week, so I think the same day as our previous meeting, or not last week, 2 weeks ago. There are three kind of, basically I went through and updated everything as I saw appropriate to the best of my understanding of OpenJS and ComCom and the state of the world. There are three kind of parts in there that I commented on. One is section 3 of the charter, which
has a lot of things that I have very strong positive feelings about, but it is completely irrelevant in the current state of the foundation. Michael said that in the TSC version they completely removed it, which totally fine. I do think that we may want to extract that language. I also don't think it should be a blocker for this specific PR, and we can perhaps try to add that back in, or certain elements of that back in later. Specifically, less of the influencing the direction of the foundation and more of the how we set or help with expression of intent, and how we try to help the project in terms of cultural project implementation and certain elements like that. So that's something we will want to consider adding back later and in a more appropriate context, but it is not something that I think can survive this specific PR. Also, I need to mark do not merge. So there's that. There's also, this PR is non-trivial in that it removes all reference to individual membership director and director roles. This is also impactful because as far as I know, I could be wrong on this, but the current individual membership director, William Kapke, I do not believe was voted in as a ComCom member. I could be wrong, I'm not certain, but that is the process that we had for individual membership directors previously, is that they are automatically a member of ComCom, which will no longer be the case. And it's automatic and perpetual regardless of involvement. So they were kind of abstract from any of the governance rules we had. So that's, one important distinction. Also, it completely dissolves the directorship for ComCom. And we may want to consider, at a higher level, going through admin, resolving the kind of current state of that, the similar position of ComCom representative to CPC. Currently, I think that was just something we all kind of waved our hands and agreed on, that ComCom and TSC would each have a representative, since there are 2 representatives in CPC. So that is good.
I think though that I'd have to go back and look at the update I did to the TSC one. I think I might have bundled it into there.
Okay.
It would make sense to me that the charter would say that, as part of the charter, we each get one of those 2 representatives. It's in terms of, I can't think of necessarily a better place to document that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It was more of a, I'm trying to create minimal surface area. And as far as I had understood, that was not something that was documented. If that is documented in the TSC, it should absolutely be documented in ours. I would not want to create a dynamic where it's documented in one but not the other.
Yeah, let me just see if I'm remembering wrong. Okay, no, yeah, I actually have it under the section 6 election. Says TSC will elect from against voting members, a TSC chairperson to work on agenda for TSC meetings, and an OpenJS cross-project council voting member to represent the TSC in the OpenJS team. Yeah, so I think that's the member we're talking about right there.
Okay, cool.
And then it goes on with the standard text.
Okay. Yeah, if you can send me that, that would be wonderful, just so I the link to that line, just so I can adapt that, and I will adapt that into this PR. So yeah, this PR removes those elements from our charter. So it will also, I would rather not lump in README updates to this, but it will also affect our README in that we will remove two roles from folks. It's also worth noting that the individual membership director role is technically not over till December, but since the foundation updates have kind of completely removed that role, that's technically invalid. So that's also just, full disclosure.
The individual membership director position,
Yep, that's theoretically a directorship role in the foundation. So the Node.js Foundation Board of Directors until December, as far as I understand.
okay. For some reason, I thought it was that we were already either over the end.
Oh,
but I could be wrong on that one.
It could have been last December. I'm pretty sure it's this December because I'm pretty sure it was 2 years. And I'm pretty sure the election was 1.5 years-ish ago. But we are at the point where that has to be resolved, I believe, regardless.
Yeah, I know. I think in the end, it was like they decided that regardless of the end position, and there wasn't any controversy or complaints, that they would end once the new directors were voted in.
Yeah. So there's that. And then additionally, I just fixed some inconsistent white space that basically was introduced over multiple PRs from different people with different editor configs. So I was just trying to normalize that. And additionally, there's one other thing here. Yeah, it just completely removed individual membership, which I noted above. Cool. So that's the extent of that PR. I would request that everyone take a look at it. This PR is kind of the other thing I wanted to talk about, the charter is the other thing I wanted to talk about toward the end. So I will continue that discussion there. But it's worth noting that, our charter is very interesting and not at all representative of what we do. So that's something that we will want to probably try to address in the future. But this should be a minimum set of changes to make it consistent with the new foundation that we're technically a part of. So yeah, that's that. If y'all could please take a look, and I don't, so there's 2 questions I have about this. One, do we need to get consensus +1s on this? I'm fairly confident we do, and it would just be good to have that regardless, even if we don't. Yes, this looks good to us as a body and as a majority of ComCom, since it does technically completely change how the ComCom works and the structures within. So if everyone could take a look at that and then approve or reject or request comments, that would be fantastic. And then on top of that, if you can, if you have any additions to make, I would really appreciate that, or changes to make. More than happy to tweak as necessary.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'll add is once it's approved by, or we have consensus in ComCom, we do need to take it to the CPC for final approval.
So my question on this one is, this technically we are chartered by the board by this document. So does this one need to go to the board, or does this one need to go to the CPC?
Yeah, well, I wondered the same thing as well. I think in the end, what we should do is take it to the CPC, and the CPC
and let them decide.
Will like basically say to the board, here as an FYI, this is what it is, and as long as there's no objections, because that's effectively what happened the last time, is that the CPC said to the board, hey, any objections? No. Okay, we're going to approve it.
Okay, cool. That's a good process then. And for context, in the future, they won't have to go to the board. They will just be able to do that themselves. Right?
Exactly. I think the wording is that, like, if there was a major change, it might go to the board, but otherwise it's the CPC will just do them.
Cool. So yeah, if everyone could take a look at that, read through it, and approve or reject or comment feedback, that would be fantastic. Any questions on that? Comments, thoughts? Cool. We can move on to the next agenda item then. Node.js social media community collaboration. I believe the ball is in my court on this. We merged the PR, I believe, but I don't know if I don't know if I actually went through and created the repo. Also, I know there's weird things with people creating repos, so I was a little nervous about that. But now that I'm chairperson, I believe that's 100% within the scope of what I'm enabled and allowed to do. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a repo. So I'm fairly confident that that is in my court. We have merged the PR 519 Begin Social Media Delegates Initiative, and I have to go create a repo and do all those things. So that's in my court. Rachel, do you have anything else to add on that? You're muted. Sorry.
So I am. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
No comments on that. I guess just, whenever we're ready to open up nominations, just let me know, and I'm happy to get that posted.
Cool. Sounds good. I will try to take care of that today, getting that repo up with the README.
Okay.
Cool. Any other comments, thoughts, suggestions, ideas on that? Cool. We can move on. Final agenda item is Node.js collection next steps. Waleed, do you want to take a lead on that one?
Yeah, this is the same issue, which is waiting for the PR review, and from there on we'll move with updating the process and adding the Trello dashboard. Maybe Rachel has some comments on this also.
No, actually I don't. The only thing that I want to bring up is we're kind of waiting to get the process set up before we can do a big call for content. So, as soon as we can get that sort of, in a good place that everybody's comfortable with, we can start, reaching out to community folks and just kind of let folks know that, we're open for content, things like that. So that's just something I just wanted to mention.
So yeah, exactly. So when this PR is merged, we have a basic process. Then we can start adding more blog posts and make it more public so that people can submit. I'm also thinking about having a session about Node.js collection and social media next collaborator summit. So maybe we can discuss more ideas. The last one we had in Berlin, that was very useful. We got a lot of feedback and new ideas from people. So,
cool.
Yeah.
One additional question I have, or one additional piece of context that I don't think has been raised anywhere. Are y'all, Rachel and Waleed, familiar with Dev? Their domain is Dev2, but they call themselves Dev. Waleed, are you? I see Rachel nodding.
Yeah.
Waleed, are you familiar? Okay.
Yeah, I know. I read a lot of blogs there. Yeah.
Okay. So one of my teammates who's very involved in Angular, also he registered the Node.js org, and I asked him to maybe share that with the project, give it to the project if that was something the project was interested in. So he added me as an admin. So we also have dev2/Node.js as an available thing for the project and for, I assume, collection, if we want to do that. They have relatively good, they have very good tooling around basically republishing content, and they, to some extent, encourage that from like Medium or other forums. So it might be a way to not add additional burden to that process, but allow people, one, to give us more surface area for finding success, and two, enable some more folks to see that we have the possibility of content and writing content for Node.js, and also just spread it around a bit more. So I'd be more than happy to work on helping set that up if y'all are interested. If not, that's also totally okay.
Do you know who? So I have a question about the account that you're referencing, because would you mind sending me the link to it? Because I believe I sat on one as well, and I just want to verify that there's not multiple and we're kind of streamlined there.
I just put it in the Zoom chat.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was also just going to say we use it for this dot, and I manage the content on it. And there's a lot of really good features, and I've been quite impressed with it. So if you guys need any help with it, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I also manage the Azure work on it and spend a non-trivial amount of time there, and it's a relatively good platform, especially compared to Medium and some of the issues that at least I've been facing with Medium, and I've seen a lot of our ecosystem being very vocal about. So
we've gone pretty much completely away from Medium. So
yeah, I would be, yeah, Tell that's a good idea. I think if we have a process for how we can post, how you can users can submit their blog post, irrespective of Medium or Dev, then later on we can move from maybe Medium to Dev all the way, but we can make it more generic so that it's not specific to Medium or Dev. It's just this is the process. It goes to Trello, it gets reviewed, and then we can publish it on both, and later on maybe depends on where more community is interested in. We can maybe only post it.
Yeah, and right now they have a relatively good process of basically consuming RSS feeds, and then if the person is a member of your org, you can add basically assign them as the author to that. So you can consume the Medium RSS feed, and then if the person who wrote it is also a member of the Dev2 organization, you can add them as the author of that post and basically credit them effectively. And it'll also still do the canonical link, or you can set up the canonical link to the Medium post, so you don't theoretically lose SEO value that way, which could be an interesting path for us to start also doing it primarily on node.js.org. And that if we want to go down the path of a more complex blog than we already have with the Gatsby rewrite, and kind of move away from Medium in every way. But yeah, I think those are all future problems, and I just wanted to raise that as a possibility.
Yeah, flagging the let's host our own blog idea. It's project websites we found works really well for release notes or stuff that somebody will come and explicitly look for. But because it's owned media, it really helps to use a service that has a better broadcast mechanism than just silently posting on the website and maybe sending out our own newsletter, which we manage. So I heavily recommend not exclusively posting content to the website, because you'll see a massive dip in eyeballs on it. So using some other service for that public broadcast content is great. The website is great for content that needs to be hosted that people will explicitly be looking for. Yeah, just as a word of advice. So it might not be Medium, but it should be something else.
On its a smaller technical issue, if people want to write the post as their own account in dev.2, then once they're added to the org, you can edit too if you want to. So it can go that way also.
Cool.
Okay. Terry, if you can go to the PR in the Node.js collection about the process, maybe you can comment where we can add options for both Medium, because there are some wording for Medium. We can have it optional that either Medium or Dev, or maybe not right now, maybe later on. So I think your review would be very useful there.
Yep, I will do that today.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot.
And I will go ahead and review that PR as well on top of commenting. Cool. Let's see here. Oh gosh, I got so far away from our issue. One step back. Cool. I believe that was the end of our agenda. We're at 12:50. Does anyone, and no worries on that. Does anyone else have additional comments, thoughts, feedback on the Node.js collection next steps discussion? Cool, I will take that silence as a no. And we can move on. So the last thing I wanted to discuss, I would suggest opening up the charter specifically for this one. I will paste the link into Zoom chat, for those viewing, it's accessible at the Node.js Community Committee repo, and the file name is Community Committee Charter in the top level directory. So in reading through this and trying to make sure I addressed everything, there's quite a few things that are not representative of how ComCom currently does things. Yes, yeah, that's fine, Saleh. So there's a few things in here, specifically, there is no mention of emeritus, which I think in our membership structure, it has become a relatively important thing. And also I think would alleviate some of the issues we have currently of basically being oh, wow, I apparently broke current initiatives. I will fix that. Sorry, I looked at the README. But currently it's rather challenging for us in certain ways to address membership and help move people into emeriti should they become inactive. We do have a relatively non-trivial number of people who are inactive, and through no fault of their own, and we're not upset with them for that. But the current mechanisms for moving people to an inactive state are relatively challenging. And the emeritus status is a nice kind of medium in that we're not like kicking them out and they can join back relatively easily if they'd like to. But it is one that I think we are underusing, and the mechanisms that are provided to us as a committee to help ensure that we are able to function effectively. Like we today technically just barely passed the consent quorum to be able to vote. So that's a thing, and that's limited by people being inactive. So updating our process there is something I'm planning on doing and planning on PRing. I would like to get feedback from y'all, but it is especially challenging for this group when we have a smaller set of people who are somewhat active. And I think that describes all of us. And then a set of people who are active. So I think that moving forward on adding in emeriti as a intermediary step before completely removing someone, which I don't think is a status that is going to be wielded often, or a hammer that will be wielded often, is something that I'd like to see. And I'd love to get y'all's feedback on that. I will probably open up a PR in the next week or so for that. Well, a week after the current PR is merged to the charter. And then on top of that, there's some mention of things and activities and states of how ComCom should operate that we do not follow at all. And that's okay. We kind of have two options there. We can begin to see if we want to evaluate doing that additional work, or we can remove those from the charter. Specifically, there's several mentions of let's see here, of basically bringing in projects and having community projects represented inside of the ComCom, which we have a couple people who maintain things, but I would say nothing at the scale of like Node School or Electron or other kind of external open source projects that I think that was kind of intended to represent. So that's a thing. I think we should try to evaluate that and see if that's something that we would like to continue shooting for as a goal, and see how we can start up an initiative to kind of work toward that, or if that's something we would like to try to remove from the charter. And I know that saying all that took up a non-trivial amount of time, so I'll leave it to the floor to the rest of y'all if you have questions or thoughts or comments or feedback on any of that. Plus ones, minus ones, anything like that.
I think bringing it up to like to what we consistent with what we do is a good idea. The Maritai, obviously, it's already documented there. So if we think we need to add some text to formalize that, that would be good. I don't think like in terms of people's activity or whatever, we need to be too aggressive, but it does come to a point where it's clear and probably everybody involved will just say, yeah, I just haven't had time for the last 3 or 6 months, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so for context, there has been a point where that has not been the case, where there has been a member, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but there has been a member who was at that stage and asked and said no, and then continue not participating. So it's more of a just documenting the ability to be able to move those processes along as necessary.
I think that's already, like, isn't there wording in there that basically says you need to be at 25% of the?
So yes, and then the challenging thing is then you are asked if you want to remain, and if you say yes, you do remain without any kind of further thing. And that goes until 6 months, where at which point I believe as a vote you will be. Let me double check here, but you'll be voted like as a consensus. Hey, is this person still active? Should we remove them? Which puts people in a not awesome position of having to vote someone out, which I think many of us would be adverse to, or not adverse to, but not particularly enthralled for. So.
Yeah, although I guess it's hard to, like, the alternative is that like you're automatically removed based on, it would have to be like an easily measurable demonstrable number, right? Or
yeah, and I think that I think that 25% thing is fine. I think it's, and also a way to be less harsh about you're gone is moving to emeritus,
right?
And so kind of automating that a bit of, okay, you've not participated in this much, and not participated in initiatives, which I believe is an addition we made. We're going to just move you to emeritus. If you want to come back, we will go through that process. But otherwise, that's relatively a way to handle that with relative ease and not hurting feelings or not being crude, at least in my opinion.
So you would be opposed to some sort of like public shaming kind of clause in the charter then?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, and that also does kind of play into it, is like if we all have to vote, then we're on someone leaving or being pushed out. We are also technically like participating in public shaming. And I like, at least for myself and for others, I know that a few people would not particularly be enthralled for having to publicly shame someone.
If it is a vote, we can make it a private session.
Yes. Yeah.
You can have that stipulated in the language.
Yeah. So that's all. Those are the two kind of things that I think are relatively important. Any other thoughts on that?
Nope, makes sense to me.
Cool. I will take that on as a task. I will try to get that. Once the current PR is out, I will put up a straw person PR just to get feedback on how we can approach that, and see how we can move from there. Cool. In that case, thanks everyone for joining us. We're stopping right on the dot. So I will see you all in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.